A very warm welcome to you, dear friend, and our quiet thanks for choosing to share a little of your precious time with us, here in the gentle unfolding of this story. It is our most sincere wish that the words and the quiet spaces you are about to hear will act as a soft, warm cloak for your spirit, helping to ease the day's burdens and guide you, quite without effort, towards the peaceful meadows of truly restful sleep, allowing all that is hurried or heavy to simply drift away like a fallen leaf upon a slow and kindly stream. And so, just before you nestle down completely, perhaps allowing your eyelids to gently close and the sounds of your day to soften into a comfortable hush, if this little tale brings you even a moment's peace or a whisper of calm, might we softly suggest that a simple tap to like this story, or indeed to subscribe to our small haven of gentle narratives, would be a most thoughtful kindness. It is a lovely way to help others who may also be searching for just such a quiet comfort to find their own path to this peaceful spot. Now, with a gentle breath releasing all concerns, let our story begin its soft unwinding. Chapter 1. Echoes in the Attic. The cottage stood nestled amongst the rolling hills of Meadowbrook Vale, like a shy gray mushroom after a spring rain. It was small, stone-built, with a roof thatched thick and green with moss, and windows like sleepy eyes overlooking the gentle slope down to the murmuring creek. Anya had inherited it from a great aunt she barely remembered, a woman spoken of in hushed tones as someone who kept to herself, content with the company of birdsong and the rustling wind. For Anya, seeking refuge from the clamor of a life that had grown too loud, its seclusion felt less like isolation and more like a welcoming silence. The air inside was cool and still, carrying the faint, comforting scents of dried lavender, beeswax polish, and something older, like time itself gathering dust in the corners. Sunlight, softened by the vale's perpetual gentle haze, slanted through the small panes of glass, illuminating swirling dust motes in its beams like tiny dancing sprites. Anya moved slowly through the few rooms, her footsteps muffled by the thick, worn rug in the main living space, her hand trailing over the smooth, dark wood of the mantelpiece above the cold hearth. It felt solid, grounding, a place that had seen many seasons turn. She spent the first few days simply settling, unpacking the few belongings she had brought, arranging them not so much for order, but for a sense of quiet companionship in the stillness. She brewed tea with water drawn from the well outside, the bucket splashing softly, the rope sighing through the pulley. She sat by the window, watching long grasses sway on the hillside and the slow, unhurried drift of clouds overhead, their undersides tinged pink and gold as evening approached. The loudest sound was often the cheerful chirping of sparrows nesting under the eaves, or the distant melodic bleating of sheep from a neighboring farm. It was on the third day, driven by a mild curiosity rather than any specific need, that she climbed the narrow, creaking stairs to the attic. The air grew warmer, thicker, smelling more strongly of dry wood and forgotten things. Light filtered dimly through a single round dormer window set deep into the thatch, coating everything in a layer of soft gray illumination. Old trunks sat huddled together, their lids closed like sleeping mouths, and bundles of dried herbs hung from the low rafters, brittle and fragrant. It was a space untouched, it seemed, for decades. Running a hand along the rough wooden beams overhead, careful to avoid stray cobwebs that shimmered like silver thread in the gloom, Anya moved towards the back, beneath the steepest slope of the roof. There, almost hidden in the deepest shadows, stood a large upright shape draped entirely in a heavy, dun-colored canvas sheet. It was taller than her and wide, its form hinting at something intricate beneath the concealing cloth. Dust lay thick upon the canvas, undisturbed. Intrigued, Anya reached out, her fingers sinking slightly into the dusty fabric. She grasped a corner and pulled, gently at first, then with a little more effort as the heavy canvas resisted. It slid downwards with a soft, sighing rasp, revealing what lay beneath. It was a loom. Not just any loom, but a large, sturdy floor loom made of a dark, smooth wood that seemed to almost drink the dim light. Its frame was simple but elegant, the posts worn smooth in places from years of use, the warp beam holding the faint ghosts of threads long since vanished. She stepped closer, drawn by an unexpected sense of familiarity, though she had never woven before. The air around it seemed different, quieter perhaps, holding its breath. She reached out tentatively, her fingers tracing the intricate carvings on the castle, the tall central structure holding the heddles. The wood felt surprisingly smooth, almost silky beneath the layer of fine dust, and held a faint, almost imperceptible warmth, like stone that has held the sun's heat long after sunset. As her hand rested on the beater, the part used to press the woven threads into place, she thought she heard a sound so faint it was almost imagined. A low, gentle hum, less a noise and more a vibration, felt deep within her chest, like the purr of a contented cat or the soft sigh of wind through pine needles. It faded as quickly as it came, leaving only the profound silence of the attic, the dancing dust motes, and the unexpected presence of the waiting loom. A quiet invitation seemed to hang in the air, an echo of forgotten work and peaceful hours. Anya stood there for a long moment, the dusty canvas pooled at her feet, the scent of old wood and lavender filling her senses. The loom felt less like a discovery and more like a remembrance, a piece of the cottage's quiet soul waiting patiently to be acknowledged, a sense of calm, deeper than any she had felt since arriving in the Vale, settled over her, soft and comforting as the dust motes drifting in the hazy light. She knew, somehow, that this loom was meant for her, a silent promise of gentle occupation in the quiet days ahead. Chapter 2. Threads of Mist and Moonlight. The following morning, Anya returned to the attic, carrying a soft cloth and a small pail of lukewarm water infused with a few drops of lavender oil. The loom stood silently, bathed in the slightly brighter morning light filtering through the dormer window. It seemed less mysterious now, more like a patient piece of furniture waiting for attention. She began to clean it gently, wiping away the accumulated dust, her movements slow and careful, as if tending to something precious and old. The wood responded gratefully, its dark grain emerging richer and deeper under the damp cloth. She cleaned the sturdy frame, the smooth warp beam at the back, the cloth beam at the front, the intricate sets of heddles hanging patiently in the castle, and the heavy beater. Each part seemed perfectly fitted, moving with a well-oiled smoothness that belied its age and disuse. There was a quiet dignity to it, a sense of purpose held in reserve. As she worked, that faint, gentle hum returned, a little more consistently this time, a low, thrumming vibration against her fingertips when she touched the main posts. It felt peaceful, reassuring, like the breathing of a sleeping creature. Once the main frame was clean, Anya's attention was drawn to a small, almost invisible seam in the base of the castle structure. Curious, she pressed gently, and a section of the wood clicked softly and swung inwards, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet lining, lay several wooden bobbins, perhaps a dozen in all, but it was the thread wound upon them that made her pause. It wasn't wool, or cotton, or linen, nothing she recognized. The threads were incredibly fine, almost ethereal, and they shimmered with a soft internal light. Some bobbins held thread the color of dawn mist, pearly gray with hints of pink and gold. Others held a thread like liquid moonlight, a pale silvery white that seemed to capture and hold the dim attic light. Another set held thread the color of the sky just before sunrise, a deep, soft violet. Reaching in, Anya picked up one of the misty gray bobbins. The thread felt impossibly smooth and cool to the touch, yet weightless, like touching solidified air. It seemed to sigh faintly as she lifted it. There were no instructions, no clues as to the looms or the thread's origins, yet Anya felt a pull, a quiet urging to try. Carrying a few bobbins downstairs to the main room, where the light was better, she spent the afternoon carefully examining the loom's mechanisms. Though she had no prior knowledge, the process seemed strangely intuitive. She found the pedals, the treadles, beneath the main frame and experimented gently, watching how they lifted different sets of heddles, the thin wire or string loops that would hold the warp threads. The gentle click-clack of the wood was a soothing, rhythmic sound in the quiet cottage. Deciding to start simply, she took one of the bobbins wound with the mist-colored thread. Following a process that felt guided by instinct, or perhaps by the loom itself, she began the task of warping, stretching the vertical threads onto the loom. It was slow, meticulous work, attaching each strand to the back beam, threading it through a heddle, then through the reed, the comb-like part of the beater, and finally securing it to the front beam. The threads seemed to almost guide themselves, settling into place with minimal tangling, shimmering faintly in the afternoon light. As she worked, the loom hummed its quiet song, a steady, peaceful vibration that seemed to resonate through the wooden floorboards and up into her hands. The scent of lavender from her cleaning cloth mingled with the dry, woody scent of the loom, and something else, something faint and fresh associated with the threads, like the smell of morning fog or cool night air. Hours passed unnoticed, the only sounds the gentle click of the heddles, the soft sigh of the threads, and the distant murmur of Meadowbrook Creek outside the window. By the time the sun began to dip below the western hills, casting long, soft shadows across the valley floor, Anya had warped the loom with perhaps a handspan's width of the misty threads. They stretched taut and shimmering, a small luminous pathway waiting for the crosswise weft. She hadn't woven anything yet, but the process itself had been deeply calming, a moving meditation that had quieted the lingering static in her mind. She sat back on the small stool she'd placed before the loom, feeling a pleasant tiredness in her arms and back, but also a profound sense of peace. The loom seemed to emanate this feeling, its gentle hum weaving itself into the fabric of the room's silence. Looking at the shimmering threads, catching the last of the day's light, Anya felt a quiet anticipation, not of grand discovery, but of simple, peaceful creation. The loom, the threads, the cottage, the veil, it all felt part of a gentle, unfolding harmony. Chapter 3. The First Shawl of Calm. The next morning dawned soft and gray, a gentle drizzle whispering against the window panes, blurring the view of the green hills. Inside the cottage, a small fire crackled merrily in the hearth. casting a warm, flickering glow that danced with the steady light of a beeswax candle Anya had lit. It felt cozy, enclosed, a perfect day for indoor work. After a simple breakfast of oat porridge and warm herbal tea, Anya settled herself on the stool before the waiting loom. The misty warp threads shimmered invitingly in the combined fire and candlelight. She selected another bobbin, this one wound with the same mist-colored thread, and fixed it onto the shuttle, a smooth boat-shaped piece of wood designed to carry the weft thread across the warp. Holding the shuttle felt natural, its polished surface cool and pleasing in her hand. Taking a slow, calming breath, mirroring the gentle sigh she imagined coming from the loom itself, she pressed one of the treadles with her foot. A set of warp threads lifted obediently, creating a small gap, the shed through which the shuttle could pass. With a gentle flick of her wrist, she sent the shuttle gliding across, leaving a single strand of the misty thread behind it. Then she pulled the beater towards her, its reed pressing the new weft thread firmly against the beginning edge. Thump! A soft, satisfying sound. She pressed the opposite treadle, lifting the alternate set of warp threads, and sent the shuttle gliding back. Thump! The second row was laid. The process had begun. Slowly, rhythmically, Anya worked. Pass the shuttle, thump the beater, change treadles, pass the shuttle back, thump the beater. The movements quickly became meditative. The gentle click-clack of the treadles and heddles, the smooth glide of the shuttle, the soft thump of the beater. These sounds wove themselves into the quiet backdrop of the crackling fire and the pattering rain. The loom hummed its low, steady song. A vibration felt more than heard, seeming to flow up through the stool, through her hands on the shuttle and beater, a current of pure tranquility. As the fabric began to grow, inch by slow inch, Anya noticed the threads seemed to catch the firelight in remarkable ways. The mist color wasn't flat. It held subtle, shifting undertones of rose, gold, and pale lavender, like the inside of a seashell or the sky at dawn. The texture emerging was incredibly soft, yet it had a pleasant, comforting weight. It felt peaceful. The very act of creating it was seeping into the cloth itself. Anya found her mind clearing, thoughts drifting gently like leaves on the nearby creek. Lingering anxieties about her move, small worries that had buzzed quietly at the edges of her awareness, seemed to dissolve, smoothed away by the rhythmic motion and the loom's pervasive calm. Her breathing deepened, her shoulders relaxed. It wasn't just weaving, it was a form of quiet conversation with the loom, with the threads, with the peaceful essence of the veil itself. The scent of warm wood, beeswax, and the faint fresh smell of the threads filled the air, a soothing balm. She worked through the morning and into the afternoon, pausing only to add another log to the fire or sip some cool water. The rain outside softened to a gentle mist, shrouding the veil in gray silence. Inside, the growing piece of fabric on the loom seemed to glow with its own soft light. It was taking the shape of a simple rectangular shawl, wide enough to drape comfortably over the shoulders. The weaving was steady even, guided by an intuition she couldn't explain. Finally, as the light outside began to fade once more into the soft gray of dusk, she decided it was enough. With careful hands, she cut the warp threads, freeing the newly woven shawl. It lay heavy and soft in her lap, shimmering faintly. Running her hands over its surface, she felt not just the exquisite softness, but a tangible warmth, a gentle pulse of peace radiating from it. It felt like holding concentrated quietness, like wrapping oneself in a gentle sigh. She held the shawl up, the firelight catching the opalescent threads. It was simple, unadorned, yet beautiful in its tranquil simplicity. A deep sense of satisfaction, quiet and profound, settled over her. She hadn't just made a shawl, she had participated in a gentle magic, weaving calm from threads of mist and light. The loom stood silent now, its hum faded, but the peace it had fostered remained, filling the cozy cottage with a soft, warm glow. Chapter 4. Sharing the Warmth. A few days later, the sun returned to Meadowbrook Vale, bathing the rain-washed hills in a soft, buttery light. The air was fresh and clean, carrying the scent of damp earth and blooming wildflowers. Anya carefully folded the mist-colored shawl, its surface still radiating that gentle, comforting warmth and profound sense of peace. She felt a quiet urge to share it, not out of pride, but from a simple desire to pass on the tranquility she had felt while weaving it. Her thoughts turned to Master Elmsworth. She found him, as she often did, sitting on the simple wooden bench on his small porch, overlooking the vale. His cottage was just a short, pleasant walk down the path from hers, nestled near a cluster of ancient willow trees whose branches dipped towards the creek. He was a man of few words but expressive eyes, lined with the wisdom of many seasons, spent observing the gentle rhythms of the valley. He looked up as Anya approached, a faint, welcoming smile touching his lips. "A fine morning, Anya," he murmured, his voice soft like rustling leaves. "The vale breathes easy after the rain." "It does indeed, Master Elmsworth," Anya replied, returning his smile. She held out the folded shawl. I made this. I thought perhaps you might find some comfort in it. The evenings can still be cool." He looked at the shawl, then at Anya, his gaze thoughtful. He reached out with hands weathered by time and tending his small garden, taking the offered gift. As his fingers brushed against the fabric, his eyebrows lifted slightly in surprise. He unfolded it slowly, letting the soft, shimmering material drape over his hands. The subtle play of colors caught the sunlight, shifting from mist gray to pale rose and gold. "This is remarkable," he said, his voice filled with quiet wonder. He drew the shawl around his shoulders, settling its comforting weight. A visible wave of relaxation seemed to pass over him. The lines on his forehead smoothed, and his shoulders, usually held with a slight stiffness, softened. He closed his eyes for a moment, breathing deeply. "Ah," he sighed, a sound of pure contentment. "It feels like sitting before a warm hearth on a chilly evening, or like the quiet moment just after the sun sets." He looked at Anya again, his eyes holding a gentle understanding. "There is more to this thread than meets the eye, isn't there, child?" Anya simply nodded, feeling no need for elaborate explanations. She pulled up a small wooden stool that often sat near his bench and settled beside him. Master Elmsworth, seemingly content to simply sit enveloped in the shawl's peaceful aura, brought out a small flask of lukewarm chamomile tea and 2 simple pottery cups. He poured for them both, the pale gold liquid steaming gently in the cool morning air. They sat in comfortable silence for a long while, sipping the soothing tea, listening to the busy chatter of birds in the willows and the constant gentle murmur of Meadowbrook Creek flowing nearby. The warmth of the sun felt pleasant on their faces, counterpointed by the cool, fresh breeze carrying the scent of chamomile and wet grass. Master Elmsworth seemed to have sunk into a state of deep repose, his breathing slow and even, a gentle smile playing on his lips. The shawl lay draped around him like a mantle of pure tranquility. Anya watched him, feeling a quiet joy in seeing the simple, positive effect of her weaving. The loom's magic wasn't showy or dramatic. It was subtle, personal, a quiet offering of peace. It was about sharing warmth, both literal and figurative. It felt right, harmonious with the gentle spirit of the vale itself. "The old loom," Master Elmsworth said eventually, his voice soft, almost dreamy. "Your great-aunt Elspeth. She knew its ways. She seldom spoke of it, but sometimes you could feel it, a certain quietness settling over the vale when she was working." He patted the shawl gently. "It's good that it has found hands to wake it again." He offered no more explanation, and Anya asked for none. Some things, she was learning, were best understood through feeling rather than words. They finished their tea as the sun climbed higher, warming the stones of the path, the shared silence, the gentle warmth of the shawl, the simple act of companionship. It felt like another thread woven into the peaceful fabric of life in Meadowbrook Vale. Chapter 5. The Weaver's Contentment. In the weeks that followed, Anya settled into a gentle rhythm dictated by the sun, the needs of her small garden, and the quiet call of the loom. She spent her mornings tending the patch of earth behind the cottage, coaxing vegetables and herbs from the rich soil, her hands sinking into the cool dampness. The afternoons were often reserved for weaving. The loom, now free of dust and filled with the shimmering warp threads, seemed to hum with quiet anticipation whenever she entered the main room. She experimented with the different threads she had found: the misty gray, the moon silver, the dawn violet. Each seemed to carry its own subtle variation of tranquility. The silver threads produced a fabric that felt cool and clarifying, like gazing into a clear night sky. The violet threads wove into cloth that felt deeply restful, encouraging quiet contemplation. But it was the mist gray, the color of her first shawl, that she returned to most often, its gentle, embracing warmth, feeling like the loom's own signature. She didn't attempt complex patterns or large, ambitious projects. Instead, she focused on simple, useful items. Small lap blankets, perfect for warding off a chill while reading by the fire. Soft scarves to tuck against the neck on cooler mornings. Simple squares of cloth that could be used for wrapping precious things or simply held for their soothing texture and warmth. Each piece emerged from the loom imbued with that unique, tangible sense of peace. The rhythmic click-clack and thump of the loom became the steady heartbeat of her days, a sound as familiar and comforting as the murmuring creek. She began to share her creations, quietly and without fanfare. A small blanket left folded on the doorstep of a neighbor who was feeling unwell. A soft scarf offered to the farmer's wife, whose hands were always busy. A simple square of the moon silver cloth given to the child who seemed easily startled. She never explained the magic, never spoke of the loom's secret sigh. She simply offered the items as small gifts, tokens of neighborly kindness. Yet she noticed subtle changes rippling through the quiet community of the Vale. Conversations seemed softer, smiles lingered longer. There was a shared sense of ease, a deeper appreciation for the slow pace of life. Master Elmsworth continued to wear his shawl whenever he sat on his porch, his serene presence seeming to anchor the valley's peace. People would sometimes stop by Anya's cottage, not necessarily to talk, but just to stand near the garden gate for a moment, breathing in the quiet atmosphere that seemed to emanate from the small stone house and the gentle hum that sometimes drifted from its windows. Anya found a profound contentment in this quiet existence. It wasn't the satisfaction of great achievement, but the gentle joy of simple purpose. The rhythmic work of the loom grounded her, the feel of the smooth threads calmed her, and the quiet sharing of peace connected her to the vale and its inhabitants in a way words never could. She learned the language of the loom, understanding its moods through the subtle variations in its hum, the way the threads seemed to respond to her own state of mind. When she felt calm and centered, the weaving flowed effortlessly, the resulting fabric radiating a pure, uncomplicated peace. One evening, sitting before the looms, twilight painted the sky outside in shades of violet and rose. Anya paused in her weaving. She wasn't working on anything specific, just letting the shuttle fly back and forth, laying down rows of the dawn violet thread. The fire crackled softly, the scent of wood smoke mingling with chamomile from her evening tea. The loom hummed its gentle lullaby. She closed her eyes, simply feeling the rhythm, the warmth, the profound stillness that enveloped her. She understood now. The loom wasn't a tool for grand enchantments or powerful spells. Its magic was quieter, deeper. It was a conduit for peace, a means of weaving tranquility into the very fabric of existence, one gentle sigh, one shimmering thread at a time. It mirrored the magic of the vale itself, unassuming, restorative, deeply peaceful. And in tending the loom, in sharing its quiet gifts, Anya had found her own place within that harmony. She had woven herself into the calm heart of Meadowbrook Vale, finding not just refuge, but a quiet, contented home. The shuttle slid smoothly through the warp, the beater thumped softly, and the loom sighed its gentle song into the peaceful twilight.